The research ship Synthesis floated quietly in the dark space between stars. Inside the white metal halls, Dr. Kethera moved her long blue fingers over the glowing screens. Her purple eyes looked tired. She had been working for many hours without rest. Dr. Kethera was a Velthari. Her people looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and 4 arms. But there was one big difference. The Velthari felt pain much more than other beings. Even a small cut could make them fall down and cry. A bump on the head could put them in the hospital for days. This is why Dr. Kethera studied pain. She wanted to know why some beings could handle more pain than others. For 20 years, she had tested hundreds of different species from across the galaxy. The results were always the same. Every smart species she found had very low pain tolerance. Just like her people. The computer screens showed data from her latest tests. The Zaraki bird people could only handle pain level 2 before they passed out. The rock-like granite folk did better at level 4, but they still could not function. Even the strong warrior bears from the ice world, Korvuk, stopped fighting at pain level 6. Dr. Kether wrote notes with 2 hands, while her other 2 hands prepared new test equipment. She had learned that pain tolerance seemed to be the same across all species. The smarter a species was, the more they felt pain. It made sense. Smart beings needed to protect their big brains and complex bodies. Pain was nature's way of saying stop before you hurt yourself badly. Her assistant, Yembo, walked into the lab. He was also Velthari, but younger and more excited about everything. His skin was lighter blue, and he had bright green stripes on his arms that showed he was still learning. "Doctor," Yembo said in their musical language, "the council wants to see your report about the new species." Dr. Kathara looked up from her screens. "Which new species?" "The ones who call themselves humans. They want to meet with us next week. The council needs to know how to prepare the medical bay." Dr. Kathara had heard about these humans. They came from a small blue and green planet called Earth. Their first contact message had surprised everyone in the galaxy. Most new species were scared when they met the Galactic Council. They asked for protection and help. But these humans seemed excited. They wanted to explore, trade, and learn about other worlds. "Show me their biological data," Dr. Kathara said. Yembo touched his wrist device and sent files to the main screen. Pictures of human bodies appeared, showing their bones, muscles, and nervous system. Dr. Kathara's 4 eyes went wide with shock. "This cannot be right," she whispered. The human nervous system was incredible. They had more nerve endings than any species she had ever seen. Their pain receptors covered every inch of their skin and went deep into their muscles and bones. Their brains had huge sections just for processing pain signals. "They must be the most sensitive species in the galaxy," Yembo said, looking worried. "How do they even function with so many pain sensors?" Dr. Kathera studied the data more carefully. Human bones were thick and strong, but their nervous system suggested they would feel every small injury like a terrible wound. Their skin was thin and soft compared to most species. Everything about their biology said they should be helpless creatures who lived in careful, protected environments. "We need to prepare the strongest pain management systems we have," Dr. Kathara said. "These humans will need constant medication just to walk around our ship. The gravity, lights, and air pressure that comfort most species will probably cause them great suffering." She called the medical department and ordered them to set up special rooms for the human visitors. Soft beds with the finest materials in the galaxy. Air that was perfectly clean and temperature controlled. Lighting that could be dimmed to almost nothing. And medical robots standing by with the most powerful pain medicines known to science. "I have studied pain for 20 years, Dr. Kathara told her assistant. "I have never seen a species with such a complex pain system. These humans must live every day in agony. We must be very careful with them." The next few days passed quickly as the medical team prepared for the human visit. They practiced with their gentlest tools and quietest voices. Even the cleaning robots were programmed to move more slowly, so they would not create sudden noises that might hurt the sensitive human visitors. Dr. Cathara could not stop thinking about the human biology data. She wondered how such a species could survive long enough to build spaceships and leave their planet. On her own world, even young Velthari had to be very careful not to hurt themselves. A species with 10 times more pain sensors should not be able to function at all. She decided to review the data one more time before the humans arrived. The numbers were clear. Humans had the most sensitive pain detection system she had ever documented. They should be the weakest, most fragile species in the galaxy, but something bothered her. If humans were so weak and helpless, how did they become advanced enough for space travel? How did they survive on a planet that her data said was full of dangerous animals and harsh weather? How did they build cities and machines and spaceships if they could barely handle any pain? Dr. Cathara saved her questions for later. Tomorrow the humans would arrive, and she would finally meet the most pain-sensitive species in the known galaxy. She expected to see careful, quiet beings who moved slowly and spoke in whispers to avoid any discomfort. She had no idea how wrong she was about to be. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Cathara stood with her medical team, ready to help the fragile human visitors. She held a medical scanner in one hand and emergency pain medicine in another. Behind her, 6 medical robots waited, with stretchers and healing equipment. "Remember," she whispered to her team, "these beings have the most sensitive pain systems we have ever seen. Speak quietly, move slowly. Any sudden sound or movement could cause them terrible suffering." The human ship was smaller than she expected. It looked rough and simple compared to the smooth, perfect ships that most advanced species built. The metal had scratches and marks on it. Dr. Cathara wondered how the humans could stand to travel in something so uncomfortable. 3 figures walked out of the ship. Dr. Cathara was surprised. The humans looked strong and healthy. They walked with big, confident steps instead of the careful, slow movements she expected. The one in front was a woman with short, dark hair. She wore a blue uniform that looked thick and rough. "Hello there," the woman called out in a loud, cheerful voice. "I'm Captain Sarah Chun. Thanks for having us aboard your ship." Dr. Cathara jumped. The human's voice was so loud it hurt her sensitive ears. She quickly turned down her hearing aids and stepped forward carefully. "Welcome, Captain Chun," Dr. Cathara said in her softest voice. "I am Dr. Cathara. Please, you must be in great pain from the trip. Our medical team is ready to help you." Captain Chun looked confused. "Pain? No, we feel great. That was a smooth ride. Your people know how to build a nice docking system." The other 2 humans walked up. One was an older man with gray hair and glasses. The other was a younger man with dark skin and strong arms. They both smiled and looked around with interest. "This is Dr. Marcus Webb, our medical officer," Captain Chen said, pointing to the older man. "And this is Engineer Carlos Torres. He keeps our ship running." Torres walked over to look at the docking equipment. As he moved, he bumped his shoulder hard against a metal support beam. The sound of the impact echoed through the bay. Dr. Cathara's team gasped and reached for their medical equipment, but Torres just rubbed his shoulder and kept walking. "Nice setup you have here," he said. "Very solid construction." Dr. Cathara stared at him. The impact should have sent him to the hospital. Her instruments showed the force of the bump was enough to break bones in most species. But Torres acted like nothing had happened. "Sir, please," Dr. Cathara said, rushing over with her medical scanner. "You must let us treat your injury. That impact could have caused serious damage." Torres looked down at her with a puzzled smile. "What injury?" "I just bumped into the wall a little. Happens all the time." The scanner showed that Torres had a small bruise forming under his uniform. In any other species, this level of tissue Damage would cause screaming pain. But Torres's vital signs showed only normal stress levels. Perhaps your pain is delayed, Dr. Cathara suggested. Some species do not feel injury right away. Trust me, Doc, Torres laughed. If I was hurt, I'd know it. Captain Chun looked around the docking bay with interest. The lights were very bright by alien standards, but she did not squint or cover her eyes. Dr. Webb was examining the air recycling system with his bare hands, touching metal parts that should be too cold for unprotected skin. Would you like to tour our medical facilities? Dr. Cathara asked. We have prepared special rooms with the most advanced pain management in the galaxy. That's very kind, Dr. Webb said, but we're fine. Could we see your engineering section instead? Carlos here loves looking at how other species build their ships. Dr. Cathara felt worried, but she led them through the ship. As they walked, she watched the humans carefully. They touched walls and equipment without fear. They walked at normal speed instead of moving slowly to avoid pain. Captain Chun even hummed a little song as they went. The engineering section was deep in the ship. Large machines hummed and sparked with energy. Warning signs in many languages told visitors to be careful. Dr. Cathara always wore special protective gear when she came here, but the humans walked in like they owned the place. Torres went straight to a large power coupling and started examining it closely. The device created electromagnetic fields that made most species feel sick and dizzy. Torres seemed to enjoy the challenge of understanding how it worked. Impressive power output, he said, running his hands along the metal casing. You're getting good efficiency from this design. That was when everything went wrong. A containment field failed with a loud crack. Electricity jumped across the room in bright blue arcs. The safety system should have shut down the power instantly, but something was broken. A massive electrical discharge hit Torres full force. The blast threw him backward against the wall. His uniform started smoking. The smell of burned fabric filled the air. Dr. Cathara screamed and hit the emergency alarm. Her medical team rushed forward with trauma equipment. Torres lay on the floor, not moving. Dr. Cathara was sure they had just watched the death of their human guest. The electrical discharge was enough to kill most species instantly. Even if Torres survived, he would be in horrible pain for weeks. Emergency lights flashed. Medical robots surrounded Torres with healing fields and scanners. Dr. Cathara prepared the strongest pain medicines they had. She expected to hear screaming and crying from the injured human. Instead, Torres groaned and sat up slowly. He looked down at his burned arm and smoking uniform. His skin was red and blistered where the electricity had hit him. Well, he said calmly, that's gonna leave a mark. Dr. Cathara stared at him in shock. Her scanners showed severe burns and electrical damage. Torres should be unconscious or dead. Instead, he was sitting up and talking like he had just stubbed his toe. Sir, please do not move, Dr. Cathara begged. You have serious injuries. We need to get you to medical care immediately. Torres looked at his burned arm and flexed his fingers. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. Got any bandages? And maybe some burn gel if you have it. The medical robots were spraying pain-blocking mist into the air. Enough medicine to knock out a warrior bear. Torres waved it away like it was bothering him. I don't need the gas, he said. Just something to cover this up until it heals. Captain Chun and Dr. Webb rushed over to check on their friend. Dr. Cathara expected them to be crying or panicking. Instead, they looked concerned but calm. How bad is it? Captain Chun asked. Torres stood up and examined his arm more carefully. Second-degree burns on the forearm. Nothing too serious. Reminds me of that training accident back in basic training. Remember when Sergeant Martinez grabbed the wrong wire? Dr. Webb nodded. You were in the medical tent for what, 2 hours? 3 hours, Torres corrected. But only because they made me wait for the paperwork. Dr. Kethera felt like her world was turning upside down. These humans were talking about serious electrical burns, like they were discussing the weather. Torres was standing and moving normally with injuries that should have put him in intensive care. "This is impossible," she whispered to her assistant. "Our instruments must be broken." But the scanners were working perfectly. They showed exactly what she was seeing. A human being who felt pain just like any other species, but somehow kept functioning anyway. Torres looked around at all the worried, alien faces staring at him. "Hey, don't look so scared. I've had worse burns from my grandmother's oven. This will heal up in a few weeks." Dr. Kethera realized that everything she thought she knew about pain tolerance was wrong. The humans were not the most fragile species in the galaxy. They might be the strongest. Dr. Kethera could not sleep that night. She kept thinking about what she had seen in the engineering bay. Torres should have been screaming. He should have been unconscious. Instead, he was making jokes and asking for bandages like he had a small paper cut. She called an emergency meeting with her medical team. They gathered in the main laboratory at dawn. Everyone looked confused and worried. The readings from yesterday made no sense. "Run the diagnostic tests again," Dr. Kethera ordered. "Check every scanner, every instrument, every computer. Something must be wrong with our equipment." Yumbo worked at the computers for 2 hours. He tested every system twice. Finally, he looked up with tired eyes. "Everything is working perfectly, Doctor. Our instruments are accurate." The human really was injured that badly, and he really did act like it was nothing. Dr. Kethera sat down slowly. If their equipment was working, then Torres had done something impossible. He had functioned normally while experiencing pain that would kill most beings. "We need to examine him properly," she decided. "Ask the humans if Torres will come to our medical bay. Tell them we want to make sure he is healing correctly." An hour later, Torres walked into the medical bay with Dr. Webb. His arm was wrapped in a simple white bandage. He moved normally and smiled at everyone. "Morning, Doc," he said cheerfully. "How can I help you?" Dr. Kethera had prepared her most advanced medical equipment. Scanners that could see inside living bodies, machines that could measure pain signals in the brain, computers that could analyze every nerve in the body. "Mr. Torres, we would like to study your injury," she explained. "We want to understand how your species handles pain. This could help us treat other beings better." "Sure thing," Torres said. He sat on the examination table and unwrapped his bandage. The burn looked terrible. The skin was red and blistered. Some areas were starting to turn black where the electricity had damaged the tissue. Deeply. Dr. Kethera's team gasped when they saw the wound. Yumbo had to sit down because he felt sick just looking at it. But Torres examined his own arm calmly. "It's healing pretty well," he said. "Should be back to normal in a couple weeks." Dr. Kethera activated the deep tissue scanner. The machine showed Torres's arm in perfect detail. The damage was even worse than she thought. Nerve endings were burned. Muscle tissue was damaged. Blood vessels were torn. "Mr. Torres," she said quietly, "our scans show that you have severe tissue damage. Your pain receptors are sending massive signals to your brain. You should be in agony right now." Torres nodded. "Yeah, it hurts pretty bad. Maybe a 7 out of 10 on the pain scale." 7 out of 10? Dr. Kethera stared at him. "Mr. Torres, our instruments show pain levels that should rate at least 20 out of 10. You should be unconscious." Dr. Webb stepped forward. "May I explain something about human biology? Torres, would you mind if I show them some educational materials?" "Go ahead," Torres said. "This is pretty interesting." Dr. Webb connected his portable computer to the alien medical systems. Videos and pictures appeared on the screens. Dr. Kethera watched with growing amazement. The first video showed human children playing something called football. They ran into each other at full speed. They fell down hard and got back up laughing. Some had bloody noses or scraped knees, but they kept playing. This is normal play for human children, Dr. Webb explained. They learn early to function with minor injuries. The next video showed a human woman giving birth. Dr. Cathara's instruments analyzed the pain signals from the recording. The numbers were incredible. The woman was experiencing pain that would kill most species, but she was awake and talking to doctors. Human females go through this process to have babies, Dr. Webb said. Most stay conscious the whole time. Some even walk around during the early stages. More videos followed, humans running long distances until their feet bled. Athletes competing with broken bones. Soldiers continuing to fight after being wounded. Workers doing dangerous jobs that would terrify most species. We feel pain just like everyone else, Dr. Webb explained. But we have learned to work through it. Our brains can ignore pain signals when we need to focus on something important. Dr. Cathara studied the brain scans from the videos. Human brains had special areas that seemed to control pain responses. When humans needed to function, these areas could reduce pain signals without blocking them completely. This is remarkable, she whispered. Your species has evolved natural pain management systems. It's not just biology, Torres added. We also train ourselves. In my job as an engineer, I work with dangerous equipment all the time. You learn to keep working, even when something hurts. Dr. Cathara asked Torres to perform some simple tests. She wanted to see how well he could function with his injury. Torres easily passed every test. He could lift heavy objects. He could solve complex puzzles. He could even operate delicate equipment with his injured arm. Remarkable, she said again. Your cognitive function is completely normal despite severe tissue damage. Well, it's not that bad, Torres laughed. You should see what my buddy Martinez looked like after he fell off that roof. Now that was a real injury. Dr. Webb showed them pictures of Martinez's accident. The man had broken 3 ribs in his left arm. But he had climbed down from the roof by himself and driven to the hospital. He was back at work 2 weeks later. Impossible, Yembo whispered. That level of injury should require months of recovery. Humans heal fast, Dr. Webb said. And we don't like sitting around doing nothing. Martinez was bored after the first week. Dr. Cathara ran more tests. She measured Torres's pain signals every few minutes. The level stayed high, but his behavior never changed. He told jokes, asked questions about alien technology, and even helped her adjust some of her equipment. I have studied pain for 20 years, Dr. Cathara told Dr. Webb. I have tested hundreds of species. None of them can do what your friend is doing right now. What makes you think humans are special? Dr. Webb asked. Dr. Cathara showed him her research data. Charts and graphs that proved every known species had low pain tolerance. Even the strongest warrior races would stop functioning at pain levels much lower than what Torres was experiencing right now. Your species changes everything we know about pain and survival, she said. How did humans develop this ability? Dr. Webb thought for a moment. Earth is not a gentle planet. Dangerous animals, harsh weather, natural disasters. Humans who could not handle pain and keep going did not survive long enough to have children. Over millions of years, we became very good at working through pain. Torres flexed his injured arm and winced slightly. Plus, pain tells us what's wrong so we can fix it. This burn hurts, but the pain is not getting worse. That means it's healing correctly. Pain is information, not just suffering. Dr. Cathara realized that her understanding of pain was completely wrong. She had always thought pain was nature's way of making beings stop dangerous activities. But for humans, pain was a tool that helped them keep going. We need to document this, she said excitedly. The medical community must know about human pain tolerance. This could change how we treat injuries across the galaxy. Just remember, Torres said with a grin, we're not superhuman. We just learned to be stubborn. Give any species a few million years on a planet like Earth, and they might surprise you too. Dr. Kethara began writing her report. For the first time in her career, she had found a species that made her question everything she thought she knew about biology, evolution, and the limits of living beings. The humans were not just surviving impossible pain levels. They were thriving with them. Word traveled fast through the Galactic Medical Network. Dr. Kethara's preliminary report about human pain tolerance reached research stations across 12 star systems within 3 days. The response was immediate and loud. Impossible, declared Dr. Vorth, the head of the Galactic Medical Council. He was a tall, gray-skinned Zentharan who had studied medicine for over 200 years. No species can function at those pain levels. The data must be wrong. Dr. Kethara received dozens of messages from scientists who demanded to see the evidence for themselves. Some called her a fraud. Others said she was making up stories to get attention. A few suggested that the humans had somehow drugged themselves to block pain. Within a week, the research ship Synthesis was crowded with visiting scientists. Representatives from 15 different species came to see the impossible humans for themselves. They brought their own medical equipment and their own theories about what was really happening. Dr. Zeltar arrived from the crystal worlds. Her people were made of living crystal and felt pain as cracks in their bodies. She was sure the humans were using some kind of technology to block their pain sensors. Professor Grumbach came from the Heavy World Coalition. His bear-like species was known for being tough, but even they could not handle severe pain. He believed the humans were lying about how much they actually felt. Dr. Wei Sings in Morning flew in from the bird colonies. Her people had hollow bones and felt pain very strongly. She thought the human nervous system must work completely differently from other species. Captain Chun and her crew were happy to help with more tests. They found the alien scientists amusing and interesting. You really want to test how much pain we can handle? Torres asked. His arm was healing well, but the bandage still covered angry red burns. That seems like a weird hobby, but okay. The aliens set up their testing equipment in the ship's main laboratory. They had devices that could create precisely controlled amounts of pain. Heat generators, electrical stimulators, pressure applicators, and sound generators that could cause discomfort in most species. We will start with very low levels, Dr. Vorth explained. We do not want to hurt you. They began with heat that would make most aliens uncomfortable. Torres put his hand on the warming plate and waited. The temperature rose slowly. At the point where most species would pull away, Torres looked bored. Is it supposed to be doing something? He asked. The aliens checked their equipment. It was working perfectly. They increased the heat. Torres continued to look uninterested. Finally, at temperatures that would cause serious burns to most species, Torres pulled his hand away. Okay, that's getting pretty hot, he said. Probably should stop before it actually damages something. The alien scientists stared at their readings in shock. Torres had tolerated heat levels that would hospitalize most of their species. Perhaps heat is not the best test, Dr. Zeltar suggested. Let us try electrical stimulation. They attached sensors to Torres's arm and started with tiny electrical pulses. Most species would feel uncomfortable tingling at level 1. Torres felt nothing until they reached level 8. Oh, there it is, he said when the electrode started buzzing. Feels kind of like when my leg falls asleep. By level 15 most species would be screaming. Torres was starting to find it annoying. This is kind of irritating, he said. Like having a mosquito bite you can't scratch. The aliens pushed the settings higher. At level 25, Torres finally asked them to stop. Okay, that's actually painful now, he said. Feels like a really bad muscle cramp. Dr. Vorth checked the machine 3 times. Level 25 would paralyze most known species. Torres was describing it as a muscle cramp. "This cannot be accurate," Professor Grumbach growled. "No living being can tolerate level 25 electrical stimulation. Want to try it yourself?" Torres offered helpfully. Professor Grumbach declined. Quickly, they tried pressure tests next. A device that squeezed Torres's finger with increasing force. Most species would cry out at 5 pounds of pressure. Torres started to notice it at 20 pounds. "That's getting uncomfortable," he said at 30 pounds. At 40 pounds, where the machine could break bones in most species, Torres finally said, "Okay, that actually hurts. You can stop now." Dr. Wu Xing's in mourning fluttered her feathers nervously. "The readings are consistent across all tests. This human is tolerating pain levels that should be impossible." Captain Chun had been watching the tests with interest. "Can I ask you something? What do you consider normal pain tolerance for your species?" Dr. Vorth showed her their standard charts. The highest pain level any species had ever handled was level 10. Most species became non-functional at level 5. "Huh," Captain Chun said. "Torres, show them your headache scale." Torres thought for a moment. "Well, level 1 is when you barely notice it. Level 3 is annoying but you can ignore it. Level 5 is where you start thinking about taking medicine. Level 7 is a bad headache that makes it hard to concentrate. Level 10 is so bad you have to lie down in a dark room." "And you function normally at level 7? Dr. Cathara asked. "Sure," Torres said. "Might be grumpy, but I can still work." Captain Chun smiled. "Want to know something interesting? I've had a level 6 headache for the past 2 days. Stress from all these meetings, probably." The alien scientists went silent. Their instruments confirmed that Captain Chun was telling the truth. She was experiencing pain levels that would incapacitate most species, and she had been conducting diplomatic meetings and making important decisions. "This is beyond our understanding," Dr. Zeltar whispered. "How do you function with such pain?" Dr. Webb joined the conversation. "Mind if I show them something?" he asked Captain Chun. She nodded, and Dr. Webb pulled out his portable computer again. This time, he showed videos of human medical procedures. Dental work where patients stayed awake, surgery with only local anesthesia, physical therapy where patients worked through pain to heal faster. "We use pain as information," Dr. Webb explained. "This headache tells the captain she needs rest and less stress. Torres's burn tells him to be careful with that arm while it heals. Pain that gets worse means something is wrong. Pain that stays the same or gets better means healing is happening correctly." "But how do you think clearly with such high pain levels?" Professor Grumbach asked. "Practice," Captain Chun said simply. "Every human learns to work through discomfort. We have to. Life is uncomfortable sometimes." Dr. Webb showed them more data. Statistics about human pain experiences. Most humans dealt with some level of chronic pain from old injuries, stress, or medical conditions. They learned to function anyway. The average human experiences what you would call level 3 to 5 pain almost every day, Dr. Webb said. Sore muscles from exercise, minor headaches, cuts and bruises, joint aches. We just accept it as normal. The alien scientists looked at each other with new understanding. They had been thinking about pain as something that stopped all activity. But humans treated pain as background information that they could choose to focus on or ignore. "We need to redesign our entire understanding of pain management," Dr. Vorth said slowly. "If beings can function at these pain levels, we have been treating our patients incorrectly." Dr. Wise Sings in mourning asked the question they were all thinking. "How did your species survive long enough to develop this ability?" Torres grinned. "Earth is not a very friendly planet. Dangerous animals, extreme weather, natural disasters, diseases. Humans who could not handle pain and keep going did not live long enough to have children. After a few million years, we got pretty good at it. Also, Captain Chun added, we learned that pushing through pain often makes things better. Exercise hurts at first, but it makes you stronger. Learning new skills is frustrating and painful, but you become smarter. Fighting through difficult times makes you more capable. The alien scientists spent the rest of the day reviewing their test results. Every measurement confirmed the same impossible conclusion. Humans could function normally at pain levels that would kill or disable every other known species. As the visiting scientists prepared to leave, Dr. Kethera felt proud of her discovery, but she also felt worried. If humans could handle this much pain and keep functioning, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? She was about to find out that pain tolerance was just the beginning of human capabilities that would surprise the universe. 6 months after the first tests, Dr. Kethera's research report had reached every corner of the galaxy. The document was titled Revised Understanding of Pain Tolerance, the Human Exception. It became the most downloaded scientific paper in galactic history. The reactions were bigger than anyone expected. On the Crystal Worlds, Dr. Zeltar started teaching classes about human pain management. Young crystal beings learned to accept small cracks without stopping their activities. For the first time in their history, crystal children played rough games and laughed when they got tiny chips and scratches. The Heavy World Coalition was amazed. Professor Grumbach returned home and told his people about humans who could work with broken bones. The bear-like aliens had always thought they were the toughest species in the galaxy. Now they felt embarrassed about complaining when they had minor aches and pains, but not everyone was happy about the human discovery. The gentle folk of Serenity Prime were terrified. Their entire civilization was built around avoiding all discomfort. They lived in perfect environments where nothing could hurt them. When they heard about humans who chose to experience pain, they declared Earth a dangerous world and banned all contact. These humans are clearly insane, announced their leader, High Cushion Soft Dreams. No sane being would willingly endure suffering. They must be stopped before they spread their madness to other species. The war clans of destruction had the opposite reaction. They were excited. For generations, they had conquered other worlds by threatening pain and death. Most species surrendered quickly rather than face injury. But humans might actually fight back. Finally, worthy opponents, roared War Chief Bloodaxe. We challenge these humans to battle. Let us see if their pain tolerance extends to combat. Captain Chun received the War Clan's challenge while her ship was docked at Trading Station 7. She read the message with Dr. Webb and Torres. They want to fight us to test our combat abilities, she said. Should I be insulted or amused? Both, Torres suggested. He was completely healed now, with only a small scar on his arm to show where he had been burned. Do they know anything about human military history? Dr. Webb pulled up some files on his computer. I don't think they do. Should we educate them? Captain. Chun sent a polite reply to War Chief Bloodaxe. She included some basic information about human warfare. Videos of historical battles, statistics about human military capabilities, and documentation of human behavior under extreme stress. The war chief watched the materials with his generals. They saw humans fighting in terrible conditions. Soldiers continuing to battle while wounded. Civilians defending their homes against impossible odds. Warriors who refused to surrender even when facing certain death. These humans do not just tolerate pain, General Sharptooth observed. They use it to become more dangerous. War Chief Bloodaxe quietly withdrew his challenge. Meanwhile, the scientific community was having its own revolution. Dr. Kethera had been invited to speak at universities across the galaxy. Everywhere she went, she found researchers questioning their basic assumptions about biology and survival. On the academic world of deep thought, Professor Mindweaver asked the question that everyone was thinking. If humans can function at impossible Pain levels, what other assumptions about sentient life are wrong? Dr. Kethera had been wondering the same thing. She had started studying other aspects of human biology. What she found was just as surprising as their pain tolerance. Humans could function with very little sleep. Most species needed 12 to 16 hours of rest each day. Humans regularly worked on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. Some could stay awake for days when necessary. Humans could survive in extreme environments. They lived in deserts, frozen wastelands, high mountains, and deep forests. Most species needed carefully controlled environments to stay healthy. Humans recovered from injuries faster than any other species. Broken bones healed in weeks instead of months. Cuts closed in days. Even serious wounds that would disable other beings for life often healed completely in humans. We are not just studying pain tolerance, Dr. Kethera told her audiences. We are studying a species that has redefined what it means to survive. The philosophical implications were enormous. Species across the galaxy began to question their own limitations. If humans could push through pain that should be impossible, maybe other beings could do more than they thought. The bird folk started flying longer distances. The deep sea people began exploring ocean trenches they had always considered too dangerous. Even the careful gentle folk began to experiment with minor discomforts, like slightly cooler temperatures or brighter lights. But the biggest changes came from an unexpected source. Young beings across the galaxy had heard the stories about humans. They were fascinated by the idea of creatures who could turn pain into strength. They started calling themselves human-inspired and began training to handle more discomfort. On Velthary Prime, Dr. Kethera's home world, young blue-skinned aliens practiced enduring minor injuries without crying. They played rougher games and took bigger risks. Their parents were horrified, but the young Velthary were proud of their new toughness. "We want to be strong like the humans," explained a young Velthary named Melka. She had scratched her arm while climbing a tree and refused medical treatment. "Pain is just information. It tells us we are alive and learning." Double quotes Dr. Kethera received reports from across the galaxy. Emergency medical calls were down 30% as beings learned to handle minor injuries themselves. Athletic competitions were becoming more challenging as participants pushed through discomfort they would have avoided before. Even workplace accidents were causing less disruption as workers learned to function with minor pain. Not all the changes were good. Some young aliens hurt themselves seriously while trying to prove they could handle pain like humans. Medical teams had to develop new treatment protocols for beings who refused pain medication. But overall, the galaxy was becoming stronger. Year after her first meeting with Torres, Dr. Kethera was writing her final report. She called it The Human Revolution: How One Species Changed Our Understanding of Life. In the report, she wrote, "Humans have taught us that our greatest limitations may be in our minds, not our bodies. They show us that beings can choose to function through suffering that we thought was impossible to survive. They prove that pain, properly understood, is not an enemy to be feared, but information to be used." She paused in her writing and looked out the window of her laboratory. In the distance, young Velthary were playing a new game called Human Ball, where they deliberately ran into each other and got back up laughing. It would have been unthinkable before the humans arrived. Dr. Kethera smiled and continued writing. "Perhaps the most important thing humans have taught us is this: the difference between surviving and thriving is often just a matter of perspective. When we stop seeing pain as something that defeats us and start seeing it as something that informs us, we discover capabilities we never knew we had." Torres visited her laboratory that afternoon. His arm was completely healed, and he was getting ready for his next assignment. The human exploration ship was leaving to visit other parts of the galaxy. "Any regrets about that electrical accident?" Dr. Kethera asked him. Torres laughed. "Are you kidding? That little shock changed how an entire galaxy thinks about pain and survival. I'd call that a pretty good day's work. As the human ship departed, Dr. Kether realized that Torres was right. What had started as a simple accident had become a revolution. Humans had not just survived impossible pain. They had taught the galaxy that impossible was just another word for not tried yet. The universe would never be the same. And somewhere in the depths of space, War Chief Blood Axe was quietly grateful. He had never actually fought the humans. Some battles, he realized, were better won through wisdom than warfare. The humans had conquered the galaxy without firing a shot. They had done it by showing everyone else what they were truly capable. OF.